So let's talk about it. Yu-Gi-Oh! And the overall state of things coming from a hardcore casual player. I think it's kind of important to define what that means. I play the game a decent amount, but I do not take it serious at all. I don't care about hitting master rank every single season in Master Duel. I don't play all the crazy new metas. I hate tier limits, cash share, stuff like that. I stay away from that. If you choose to play that, congrats. That's not my thing. I grew up with the original game, you know, when Yugi and Kaiba were the main characters. You set a couple cards to pass. I think the OG format is just a lot of fun. And I know some people think this is boring, and I know a lot of people love it as well. I think one big problem with Yu-Gi-Oh, before we even get into the state of Yu-Gi-Oh itself, is the animosity people have towards each other based on what they prefer. I think it's crazy to me. The way I see it is, if someone plays Yu-Gi-Oh, whether you play Modern, Edison, old format, whatever, if you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh, it's a W. All that matters is we're all playing Yu-Gi-Oh. But there's definitely some players out there who get angry at you for the preferences you have. Like, oh, you like Goat? Psh, trash. Or you like Edison? Psh, trash. Or you like the modern stuff? Psh, trash. There is no correct way to play Yu-Gi-Oh. End of the day, if we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh, that's all that matters. Let's be real. It's the same game. I mean, asterisk, same game. You know, technically there's a different mechanics and stuff like that. But it's still Yu-Gi-Oh! End of the day. And I feel like having any kind of animosity towards each other is already an L. We should never be doing that to begin with. But yeah, let's talk about actually the game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a confusing mess right now. I know I'm gonna get some people in the comments like, no, it's not. I learned the game in 3 seconds. Congratulations. That's not everybody else though. Let me explain. When we were kids, we were able to watch the anime. We grabbed the structure decks, you know, the Yugi and Kaiba ones or whatever series we were watching at the time, and we were able to learn the game on the fly. Sometimes we had our own special rules. Sometimes we didn't know what certain cards did. For example, Mystical Space Typhoon, some of us use that as a way to negate when we were kids. Like, oh, I destroyed your spell, therefore it doesn't activate. End of the day, we were able to pick up the game and learn on the fly. Nowadays, you can't do that. Imagine giving let's say the most recent structure deck, giving that to some kid and it's like, hey, learn the game. What will they do? They will look at the cards and be like, huh? Some might be able to pick it up, but I feel like the general consensus is they won't know what to do because there's so much happening in the game. The OG format was simple. You know, you set 2 pass, you have your tribute summons and stuff like that. It's pretty simple. And then started introducing more stuff like synchros, which wasn't that bad. Exceed cards, pendulums, we're not gonna talk about. But as they start introducing more mechanics, the game got way too confusing. I guarantee you, if you pick up the phone right now and call up anybody that you grew up with that also played the game and ask them about the current state of Yu-Gi-Oh, they're probably gonna be like, they're either gonna say people still play Yu-Gi-Oh, or they're gonna say, oh, that game is crazy today. I don't even wanna look at it. I don't even wanna think about the different mechanics that are added into it. It's overwhelming. And it makes sense. There's over 10,000 cards. Of course it is. I don't think adding different mechanics was a mistake. I feel like you have to in order to keep the game fresh going down the line. You can't be playing the same game 25 years down the line. I mean, you could, but it probably won't be as massive as it is now. But like, you gotta add mechanics to keep it fresh. But the problem is, it's just so much happening right now. You know, a couple weeks ago, we did a tournament. Big shout out to Mr. Keem and Project CCG who hosted it. They pre-built 8 decks, which was like 2005 to 2010 formats. Some cards were, you know, released a little bit later, but for the most part, the decks are pretty balanced. And they brought in 8 people, myself included, and then they were like, go ham. The people that got on top, some never even played a game before. That's how easy it was to pick up Yu-Gi-Oh back then. It's kind of crazy, ain't it? Nowadays, imagine we held that same tournament and they gave them like structure decks that just came out. They're gonna be like, what? What's a synchro card? What is an Exceed card? How do I play this? They would be overwhelmed and just have a panic attack. But with the older formats, it was so easy to pick up that anybody who's never played a game before were able to get in the top. The game has grown a lot, and it's just way too confusing nowadays. So how do you fix that? Honestly, the answer is you don't fix that. I mean, you could. So there's a couple things you can tackle. Number one, how broken the game is. I think certain cards should not exist, and I feel like a lot of people agree with me. You know, for example, they recently just announced they're banning Rongo in Master Duel. That card has been banned in the paper format in the game for a long time because the card is busted. Cards like that shouldn't exist, nor should it be printed to begin with. To be fair, when that card first came out, it was not easy to bring out. You know, there was a level of build-up to bring it out. But the problem is with more cards that come out nowadays, with how easy it is to bring stuff out, certain cards that came out years ago end up being way more broken today. For example, Skill Drain is one of the most broken cards today. When that card came out in the 2000s, nobody cared about it. I mean, it was cool. You can negate a card here and there, but it wasn't doing anything really. No one was playing Skill Drain in 2002. And nowadays, cards like that are busted. So how do you fix that? The answer is you ban them. Don't let people play Floodgates. And I know certain Floodgates it's like a necessary evil. You gotta have them to balance out certain decks. Because let's be real, modern day Yu-Gi-Oh is broken. You win a coin toss or the dice roll, you most likely will win the game. Because there's so many cards nowadays that are one card combos into full combo that create these boards that are just borderline unbreakable sometimes. Don't get me wrong, I love overcoming a broken board and breaking it. It feels very satisfying. I think that's the charm in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh that a lot of casual players don't really understand, but it's a lot of fun doing that. But sometimes the decks are OD, you know? For example, you know, a deck like Fluanderee's Flu should have never existed. It's not fun to play against. Or all the stun decks, Runic Stun, for example, or just the decks that are like, they flip Goza Match or Rivalry of the Warlords, and then you can't do anything. Cards like that should just not exist to begin with, because they don't breed any kind of interaction. It's like, the only reason why you won with those is because you open up cracked. Congrats, I can't play, shake your hand, let's go to the next duel. You fix that by banning all those cards. Get rid of them, you know? Stop having cards like that in the game to begin with. Stop printing cards like that, and kind of focus more of a thing that spawns or breeds actual interaction. But again, that's easier said than done because there's so many cards, and with every new card coming out, something that came out at some point might be broken today. Fixing the balance from today is a different beast, and in order to kind of even get into that requires a lot of thinking. So what's solution B? Think about it. Nostalgia sells, and you know where I'm going with this. Nostalgia sells. At some point, we grew up with these games, if you're watching this video, and you probably remember playing this when you were 12, 15, 16, in your 20s, you know, even later years. In whatever format that you came into the game, you love that format. People love Edison, people love Go, some people might love Hat. Whatever format you grew up with, you love that. So how do you make players that grew up with the game play again? The answer is simple. You let them play that format. Make it more official. Now, I know it's easier said than done. You can't just, like, you know, bring back formats officially and then have to, like, you know, police that and then keep up with the forbidden list, stuff like that. It's a lot easier said than done. But the thing is, if you do bring that back, people will play. Like right now, it's funny. They just reprinted all the original sets. Those boxes sold. You know why they sold? Because a lot of people who are now older probably walked into Target and they were like, I remember this. This is my shit. And they bought the cards for no reason at all. They can't do anything with them. They're not going to play. But the nostalgia is what brought them back. Imagine being able to get those players to play the game today. And you can do that, actually. You know, again, I think formats is a great way to start. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is a perfect example. You know what you can do in Master Duel? Right now you have ranked and you have casual. You can easily grab the 2005 April ban list and create GOAT format as a thing. And you know what's going to happen? The people that only love playing the slower version of the game that they grew up with, they'll be like, hey, wait a minute. I remember this. I could play a couple games, and next thing you know, they're addicted to it all over again. You can introduce Edison, which actually they technically did. They introduced Time Wizard format last year, I believe, at one of the YCSs, and it was massive. Time Wizard format, or Edison, is actually super popular. You know why? Because people grew up with it. It was a time where people thought that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was just right. It was just super fun. It wasn't crazily overly complicated. It wasn't broken. It wasn't decided about who goes first. I mean, look, let's be real. You'll have broken decks here and there, but I feel like broken decks today versus back then are not the same thing. I love this argument. Every time I talk about balancing Yu-Gi-Oh!, there's always been somebody who's like, yeah, well, you probably never gotten Yada locked with Chaos Emperor Dragon and Sangan. Here's the thing. Even if you did get Yada locked in the original format of Yu-Gi-Oh!, it never happened turn one. It never happened turn one. The thing is, even if you play the best deck in the older formats, you're not going to get your back blown out in the first turn. You're not. I mean, they might get the advantage of setting up a crazy board and then you can overcome that, but it's a back and forth until that happens. Nowadays, you can win the coin toss and dice roll, as I said, and then you just don't get to play. Again, I love breaking those boards, but a lot of times you look at the board, you're just like, this is just not worth it. I'm just going to go to the next duel. It is what it is. And that's the best part about the whole power balance or power scaling discussion. Whenever people are like, yeah, well, old Yu-Gi-Oh! Was broken. They had magical scientists. They had Yada lock. They had this. They had that. They did, but it wasn't happening turn one every single time. On top of that, most of us played Playground Yu-Gi-Oh! We went to the store, we got a structure deck, we got a couple of packs, and we built a pile of cards, and we had fun with it. That was what the core of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was growing up. We didn't go in the store like, hey, how do I build the most broken deck? No one did that. If you did, you probably had no friends. Let's be real with it. But yeah, my overall point is formats will fuel nostalgia. It'll get more people to play. And From there, you can go into doing a lot of things. And the thing is, you can play in multiple formats. You know, you're not being forced to play every single format in the game. Just play what you enjoy and what you like is how I see it. You know, if you want to only play modern, then only play modern. If you want to go back and play GOAT, then play GOAT. If you want to play Edison, play Edison. Play the format that makes you happy. Because again, as I said, end of the day, all that matters is you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's the goal. If they officially introduced formats in every aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh!, whether it be Master Duel or locals or like official tournaments, then you can do a lot of stuff with that. Master Duel, I feel like there's no reason why Master Duel should not have formats, because right now you can craft banned cards so you can duel with your friends, but it's only like a handful of them. You can't even do all of them. But imagine if they actually have an actual format mode that follows, like, let's say the April 2005 ban list, or GOAT as we call it. There's so much more that could be done right now. Meanwhile, Konami is just running in circles around like, how do we get more people to play the game? We're telling you, literally right here, what to do. It's not that complicated. Look, it's a little complicated. Because again, keeping up with different formats and ban lists might get confusing, you know? And I think that's the ultimate goal. They don't want to do that. That's one of the reasons why they stopped errata cards, because they got way too confusing. And even if you were to bring back formats, what does that mean for the original cards? Are we using the original Dark Magician Chaos, or are we using the errata one? I'll be honest. If they brought back GOAT and they had like the current erratas, I wouldn't care. I would still play it. Obviously, it would suck because I would love to have the original Dark Magician of Chaos. But it's a start, you know? The dream would be they introduce formats, and then everything that follows those rules will have the OG cards, you know? And again, stuff like Chaos Emperor Dragon and yada will be banned, yada, yada, yada. So you have to worry about that. I mean, just think about it for a second. Imagine all this stuff takes off. You know, Time Wizard becomes like a massive thing in the paper format of the game. They introduce GOAT as well, and then whatever they choose to call it, because they probably wouldn't call it GOAT. You know, they can call it like Classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Matter of fact, Pokemon is literally doing it right now. They're doing Classic Pokemon, and it's going to blow up. I guarantee it. Imagine down the line they have Classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments that you can watch on the stream. You know, people would tune in for that because they understand it. They grew up with it. They know what's happening. It will be so massive all around. Again, it's complicated because at this point you're managing multiple different formats of the game. But again, by fueling that nostalgia, by going into the things that people want to see and play, you will breathe fresh air into this game again. When I came back to Duel Links in 2016, 2017, I was brought back to the game because I remember playing that format. Granted, it's a speed version format. It was all the older cards. For playing Duel Links, I actually got into playing Modern again. If you get people to play GOAT or Edison, that's something they grew up with, there's a good chance that some might convert into modern day players as well, and that will be fueling even more growth down the line. I don't know, maybe the ideas that I'm spewing out in this video is just way too ambitious. It would never work, but I figure I can at least give you the thought process of, like I said, a hardcore casual, someone that grew up with the game and how I see it. Because again, I know every time I talk about GOAT format or the older formats, I always get a handful of people who are like, oh, here we go again. Here comes the Yu-Gi boomer. Bro, why are you arguing with the same community of the game that you love? That's what I want to know. Why does me liking GOAT format or even Edison now, which I recently stopped playing, why does me liking that over, you know, getting locked out turn one? Why is that a big deal? Like, why are you threatened is a better question. Again, if they ever were to introduce formats, it's not like you'll be forced to play all of them. Just play what you want to play. Whatever format of Yu-Gi-Oh! You play, you're still playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Under the day. And that's going to be good for the game down the line. It will cause more growth, more happiness all around. And I feel like at the end of the day, that should be the goal, is the fun factor that we grew up with in Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, I think I rambled long enough. I don't even know how I'm going to edit this video. I literally just turned the camera on and started spewing out words, you know. And I want to hear from you guys as well. What do you want to see with the game? And I want you guys to also take a time to read the comments as well and see what others are saying. You know, this is not just a me thing. It's not just me saying I want GOAT. There's others who want GOAT. And then same thing with Edison. There's others who want Edison, Time Wizard, and stuff like that. And there's only some that only want to play Modern. Like, again, we should never be arguing amongst ourselves about what is the right way to play this game. Unless, of course, you are a flute player, in which case we all can collectively agree that we don't like you. I'm kidding. I'm mostly kidding. End of the day, I feel like, you know, we can really come together as a community in this crazy game that we call Yu-Gi-Oh! And really, I guess, send a message to Konami of how to further improve the game and give us exactly what we want. And again, Master Duel is so good right now because, not because of what's happening in the game, but the potential with it. Konami, it's not literally like this, but it's a couple lines of code, and I guarantee you'll have a great game in Master Duel. You can make it happen easily tomorrow. Well, not easily tomorrow, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm ending the video right here. Again, I just want to kind of get my thoughts out and see what you guys think about this, and then we can see, I guess, where this goes down the line if we ever even get anything out of this. I mean, we probably won't, but you know, it's nice to talk about and stuff like that. So let me know your thoughts down below. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed the discussion, and I guess stay tuned for more content down the line.